If you're on social media and you've been subjected to the relationship podcast brigade, then you've likely seen the ever flowing conversation surrounding the topic of marriage, especially when bringing a child into the world is involved. You can't see a woman having a baby without the comments showing about 85% of people asking, "No ring? She ain't married? He ain't married her?" And then you have some who say, well, marriage isn't everyone's end goal. It isn't for everyone. And the rebuttal to that is almost always, well, on paper is better than baby mamahood. But of course, there's always an exception to the societal rules, right? Sometimes you hear of the couple who didn't get their union certified and they still lived happily ever after with whatever documentation they needed in place to ensure stability. And then you have the women like Amber Morgan, who did things the quote-unquote right way. She fell in love, got married, and had a baby. But the exception here for her is that seemingly flawless setup still wasn't enough to ensure her safety or secure stability, as her life was snubbed years before she could even turn 30, and just 1 month after becoming a brand new mama, as she was found slaughtered in her own home. This is the story of Amber Morgan. Amber was born September 28, 1997, to two wonderful parents, her mother Starla Hart and her father Corey Morgan, who both adored their daughter to pieces. They described her as a bright light who connected with any person she came across. Amber worked with children as a kindergarten teacher at Victory College Prep on Sloan Avenue in Indianapolis, Indiana, and had been working there since April of 2023. She had a deep passion for her teaching job with the kids, and really she just loved children in general. So imagine how happy she was when she found out she was pregnant with her and her husband's first baby, a precious little girl. She and her husband, Robert Cooley, had been in a relationship for about 4 to 5 years before becoming parents. Amber's father and loved ones described Amber coming into motherhood gleefully. She was so in love with her brand new baby girl, and as a mom, I know a lot of us can relate to that feeling of pure joy when you finally get the chance to just hold and stare at the little human that you brought into the world. However, unfortunately, Amber would only be able to experience that joy for a mere 5 weeks before her life was brutally taken. It was early Saturday morning, a little before 7:30 a.m. on June 1st of this year, when Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department was called to the northwest side of Indianapolis in the 3000 block of Armory Lane to a report of someone being shot. When they arrived at the reported residence, they found 26-year-old Amber Morgan in the home, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head. When medics arrived, they reported Amber deceased at the scene. Also still at the crime scene was her husband, 25-year-old Robert Cooley, who was detained without incident and police deemed what happened to be a domestic-related homicide. Investigators were granted a search warrant at the residence, and they were able to discover a firearm that they seized as evidence for further investigation. Now let's bring it back a bit to how Robert was even detained, because the way he was taken into custody sounds like it was pretty easy for IMPD. And that's because it was, as Robert actually made it very easy for police when he offered up a confession immediately as soon as police arrived on the scene. You see, as the police pulled up to the residence, Robert was exiting out the garage door, and according to court reports, he was seen on his way out wearing blood-drenched clothes. But he wasn't trying to leave the premises. He was actually walking towards police to tell them what had transpired before they even stepped foot into the residence. He told them, quote, "I did something bad. I need to go to jail. I took my wife's life," end quote. And it was all caught on police body camera footage. His brother Garrett stated that Robert called him on FaceTime before the police even got there and said, quote, "I just killed Amber, bro," end quote. Police brought Robert to the IMPD homicide office for questioning, and during questioning, Robert detailed the order of how he took Amber's life, stating he had beaten her first, and then slashed her throat with a razor blade that he hid in a shoebox before ultimately shooting her in the head, according to what officers said in the affidavit. After consulting with the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, police charged Robert with preliminary homicide and is being held at Marion County Jail without bond. It was reported that Amber's face was beaten so badly she was unrecognizable. And what's even more sad is their 5-week-old baby girl was in the home when Robert took Amber's life. Now, what was the history between the young married couple? Well, according to an arrest affidavit, when investigators spoke with the witness stated there was ongoing domestic issues with the couple and said how the couple had just been arguing the day before Amber's homicide, which was that Friday. They said Robert seemed to be very upset. Amber's mother, Starla, stated the night before the tragedy, that Friday, that Amber reached out to her via email asking for assistance in getting a petition for dissolution of marriage papers so she could get away from Robert. Starla recalled as time had gotten closer for the baby's arrival, Robert had begun to spiral out of control, and she recalled him being verbally abusive to Amber. Meanwhile, Amber was focused on being smitten with her daughter. Starla said Amber would call her every single day during those 5 weeks that she was able to enjoy motherhood and would tell her mom, "This is the greatest job I have on earth." Amber's father, Corey, stated he believed the day before the tragedy, he had ran into his daughter and his granddaughter, and for some reason, it had seemed to really piss Robert off. In fact, he was so angry that he tried to physically fight Corey and even threaten him. He said Amber was being manipulated by Robert because between the two of them, Amber was the one that was the breadwinner, and she was funding her husband's whole lifestyle. Corey stated, quote, "We think he tried to confront her and she told him something he didn't want to hear, and that escalated everything rapidly because he was going to lose his opportunity to be with her." End quote. Also, it doesn't seem like Robert was much of any help to Amber in anything, as Corey stated that one night Amber had gone to Costco with her mother, and when she got home, she took everything up 2 flights of stairs by herself after just having a baby. Robert didn't even bother helping her. And could you imagine carrying things up steps after just having a baby? You're not supposed to be doing all that heavy lifting and all that. And Costco is one of those wholesale type stores where everything is in bulk. Nothing is in bags. You got to squat down, pick it up, and carry those big bulks of goods. So, to hear that is crazy. But anyway, both of her parents said they did see red flags in the couple's union, but they never thought that it would ever lead to something like this. As for Amber's baby girl, her parents said they were definitely in the process of adopting her, and they would be sure to keep Amber's memory alive by telling her daughter what a wonderful mother she had. Amber's dad gushed over his daughter as he described her, stating that they don't make women like Amber no more. And he did ask the media to not refer to Amber as her marital name, but to address her with her maiden name. And so I wanted to make sure that I too respected that wish, hence her last name being presented as Morgan instead of Cooley. The school that Amber worked at made a statement on behalf of her memories stating, quote, "Her warm smile, nurturing spirit, and caring heart set the best examples for our youngest and most impressionable students at Victory College Prep. She was a close friend and steadfast supporter of her fellow kindergarten teachers. Every member of our school network team feels the terrible pain of her loss." End quote. Robert's next court appearance is set for July 25th of this year.
Our top story, family and friends are remembering Amber Morgan. They say she was a loving mother and a passionate educator. Earlier this month, you recall, Amber's estranged husband confessed to killing her. News 8's Adam Pinsker shows us the moments hundreds gathered at a vigil to grieve together.
26-year-old Amber Morgan was studying for a graduate's degree at Marion University before she was killed just 5 weeks after giving birth to her daughter. That's where friends, family, and classmates gathered to remember Morgan and raise awareness among young adults about the dangers of domestic violence.
We know, God, that the tragedy has taken place.
Though her life was cut short, Amber Morgan had a lasting impact on everyone she met.
Amber had the heart of a champion. Amber was love personified.
IMPD found Morgan's body severely beaten in her home off White River Parkway and West 30th Street on June 3rd. A little over a year ago, she took a job as a kindergarten teacher at Victory Prep, where coworkers described her as confident and driven.
The first day on the job, she wanted to know everything about teaching. What do I need to do with these kids? And we're like, girl, you cannot learn everything in one day. And she said, oh, but I can, right?
Principal Valerie Miller says students at Victory Prep are still grieving Morgan's loss. Wish TV spoke with Amber's parents after they lost her daughter. They said Amber tried to get her marriage dissolved the night before her death.
Amber couldn't have done anything differently. I want to make that very clear right now. Sorry, she couldn't have done anything differently. This is all on him, 100% on him.
Nearly 3 in 10 women and 1 in 10 men have experienced physical violence and stalking by a partner. That's why advocates say it's critical to educate young people about the dangers of domestic violence.
So, I mean, you know, in my own words, basically, in a nutshell, Robert was an abusive, dusty bum that knew his money machine was on her way out of his life. Plus, he was jealous of the baby's arrival because he knew that was an entire responsibility that was going to cut into his lifestyle financially. And he couldn't handle the rejection or the thought of his stream of income coming to an end and decided to take her life. If he couldn't have her money, no one could, not even his own daughter. If he couldn't have her attention, no one could, not even his own daughter. And he clearly didn't care about the baby girl. She wasn't his concern, especially with the way he set her up to have to grow up without her mother or her father. Starla already said that he began spiraling as the baby was on its way into the world. He was angry because he's a bum. He's selfish, he's lazy, and felt like his wife had to take care of him and tend to his every need. And all of that was going to come to a stop once that baby came. And if she didn't do what he said, he was putting hands on her. Because remember, a witness already spoke to the fact that there had been a history of domestic disputes between them. So you know he was in there wilding. You know, I do hope that the judge in this case throws the book at Robert right in his ashy face. He deserves 0 time in the free world ever again. He had no regards for the woman that he made his wife or the little girl that he created. He had no regards for how this could affect his daughter as she grows older, knowing why she didn't get to grow with her mommy and daddy like a lot of her school friends could. This story is wicked. Robert is wicked, and we know there's no rest for the wicked. May he not live the rest of his life in peace. However, I do pray for the healing of Amber's parents, her co-workers, her loved ones, her friends, and her students. May Amber's spirit live on with you all forever as she lives vicariously through her baby girl. Rest in peace, Amber Morgan. You'll never be forgotten.